everybody. Welcome back to Children Matter. You're here with Katie-Jayne, and we're joined with the amazing Michael Tarraga, who wrote Meat Rack Boy. So today we're going to be looking into more of who Michael Tarraga is, and hopefully getting to know each other a bit better as well. So hi, Michael.
Hi, good afternoon to you.
How are you doing today?
Excuse me. Oh, my look.
I do have to apologise as well because we've just had a lovely chat as well on the other side of it. So we're going to be touching on a couple of subjects again. So I do apologise.
That's the sympathy cough. If I keel over, people will go, ah. But yeah, we're fine. We're on this lockdown like I've got 4 months of it because apparently I'm a very, what do they call it, a frail and vulnerable old man. About as frail as a bleeding scorpion with his bloody tail wrapped up.
I was going to say, with everything you've been through as well, if there's something that you're definitely not, it's frail or vulnerable.
Oh, now Georgie can hear this, so come on, just admit that I am a frail old man.
But people could say the same thing about me, so you could say I'm a frail and vulnerable young girl, and just because people say we are doesn't mean that we are.
No, you're absolutely right there. But yeah, I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
I'm not too bad. I know we've got a couple of people who are going to be watching over in Germany today as well. A couple of people I was in care with myself. So if I ask if I ask obvious questions, I do apologise. It's just because obviously my friends over in Germany, they don't know obviously the situation completely, or yourself or the book that you wrote.
Go back to basics for me. Ask whatever you like. Be as controversial as you like.
That's kind of hopefully my plan, but I want to obviously have a casual conversation as well at the same time, because it's easier and it's more relaxed when you can just sit and have a casual conversation without having questions thrown at you. But yeah, let's go back to basics. So, where did it start?
Well, for me, Lambeth Hospital. That's where I was born. But wrong time, wrong place, wrong mother and father, come to that, and abandoned immediately. Right, my mum, bless her heart, I was always led to believe was a prostitute. Right, this is post-war, times were hard. Women had to do what women. You can't decry anyone for doing what they do. And the old boy, Mario, well, he was he's a character for what we've discovered. I never met him as such, but he's a real character. Apparently, he was married bigamously. He wasn't married to my mother, but he must have spent a couple of good weekends with her, because my brother and I were born just after my sister from the same mother. Yet they never got married, and I didn't know why until I discovered he was married to 2 other people at the same time. So, old Mario, bit of a lad, Spanish, and he took off as his will, and mother took off, never to be seen again, and well, that's how it started. And
so you've got siblings, I believe.
They're dead. They're long dead. It's just me.
That must be in itself like one of the worst things you could ever go through, losing your siblings as well.
Well, I didn't know them. We were split up, and when I discovered that they were dead, you can't grieve for them because if you don't know them, it's as simple as that. I think I probably did raise a glass in a drunken state to my twin brother, but other than that.
So when you say you were split up, were you split up from birth?
No. Well, yes, we were. My sister was already in care in Shirley Oaks Children's Home in London, Croydon. And the records show that we were taken, my brother and I were taken straight into care. Now, bearing in mind that Lambeth is the care responsibility for Shirley Oaks home, and my sister is already in the nursery there, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we were there at some stage, my brother and I. But the records show that on 1952, we came from 3 different homes, nurseries, to the court in London, where the authority, they don't say which one, they just say the authority, was granted the full legal and parental rights over the 3 of us. And we were taken to Boreham Wood. I think I was 4 years old, or just coming up to 4 years old. And we were taken to Boreham Wood, foster parents, a house belonging to a Bob and Ivy Woods, 2 of the, well, the book says about them. And yeah, that's where it all started, the abuse and all the carry on and selling and whatever.
I mean, I don't know if it's all right to delve into your siblings, or if I should just move on.
Whatever you feel.
When did you find out about your siblings and when they passed away? How old were you?
Well, I learned in 1966 that my sister was dead.
How old would you have been?
16, 17. I was at the nautical school, Portishead. She was only a year and a half older. And I didn't know where my brother was. Although I've learned since from the records, he went to British farms for British boys. But
Do you know how they died, or?
Sorry?
Do you know how they died?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
I'm guessing it's not good.
It wasn't natural, let's put it like that. But they're gone, you know, and I didn't know them. So I know it sounds hard, but you can't grieve for something you don't know.
I guess it's grieving. Yeah. I guess it's grieving the time that they've taken from you.
No, it's wondering, you know, would I have been a good uncle? You know, could I have influenced their kids in any shape or form? Would my life have been totally different if we'd stayed together as a unit? I don't know. And I'll never know that. And I can't dwell on it, you know, and I've got to the stage in my life. I'm a very cynical old bastard, you know.
You're not.
And the only thing I trust is my gut instinct. Nothing else, right? The only person I have full and utter and complete trust in is Georgie.
Which is completely understandable as well.
Right, because she was the one who said to me, after I told him a story, right, and I said, look, what do we do here? Where do we go from here? Do you want to be with me? You know all this crap. You know that I'm, you know. And she, well, we're still here. And she's never breathed a word of what I say, which is brilliant. You know, I mean, I can trust her implicitly. And I do trust her implicitly. It's as simple as that. But it's just crazy and sad and unhealthy that people are sitting there, young people, old people are sitting there, knowing full well they've got this fucking hideous cloak of abuse sitting on their shoulders, and they're frightened to talk about it. And
well, let's touch on that for a second. Obviously, what type of abuse have you been through? For everybody who's obviously doesn't know who you are,
I was brought and sold from 4 years old.
I should laugh at that, but it's just how blunt you were then. I just had to giggle.
Well, looking back, it's a tragic bloody farce, you know, because this was allowed to go on carte blanche, right? Everybody who was anybody was involved in it. The fucking hierarchy were rutting like crazed weasels with children, for God's sake.
I know you mentioned in your book about Edward Heath, former Prime Minister.
Yeah, there was just one incident. I didn't know who the bloody hell he was. He weren't Prime Minister, and he wasn't on a big fucking gin palace either. It was on a boxy little sailing boat with a cuddy on it. Cuddy being a cabin type thing. You know what I mean? It was nothing out of the ordinary. It was something I'd been doing and forced into doing for years. I didn't, you know, what did it matter whether he was a sailor or not a sailor? You know what I mean? He was someone I could thief something off, given the opportunity. Not that I got it, but the opportunity, that is. But I can look back on my life, right? The horrors of it, the good times of it, the very good times of it. And I can laugh, right? And I look and I weed it all out. I had some of the best laughs ever in the jail. Believe you me. I met some charming people in the jail. I met some pure asses in the jail as well. You know what I mean? But if I weed it all out, you know, it's not all been bad. And out of a bad situation, you've got to make a good situation, right? And for me, at 60 years old, and having met Georgie, I got really pissed off with the way my life was, right? And I said, right, I've got to lay this bloody ghost to rest. And I did. I got some compensation for an injury, right? And I got 10 grand from Shirley Oaks, right? Which I blew on writing a statement. I wanted to go against Lambeth, right? I hate Lambeth with a fucking passion, right? And I couldn't get any sense out of them. I just got lies out of them. I got my records and they're all fucking redacted, all my bits, right? You can't get the truth. And the only way you will get to it is to stand up and scream like a fucking banshee at them, right? Now, I understand, absolutely understand, that no young person wants to come out and say, I've been raped hundreds of times. I've been forced to sell my body hundreds of times. And I can understand why they don't say anything, right? I can understand the shame that they feel.
100%. I was having a similar conversation with Alan Merritt on this as well, and I'll let you finish out. But we touched on the person a minute ago as well before the live.
What I don't understand is why they feel that they should be ashamed.
I'm with you.
I don't understand that at all, because there is nothing to be ashamed about in being an abuse victim, right? The shame is with the abuser, right? And I think that once, and I hope that the podcast and the book, you know what I mean, go some way to helping people, youngsters mainly, to understand that it's not wrong to talk. It's not wrong to scream and shout.
And even cry.
You know, oh, I've cried. Fuck me, I cried. For many, many years I cried. No shame in crying, you know, but people have got to understand, right? And they've got to talk, because if you don't talk, you are not going to be heard. That is for sure.
100%. Right? I used to go
The
around
more
saying,
you
I speak
talk,
so that I may be heard.
For many people, it goes in one and out the other, right? But for every 5 it does that, it'll stick in someone's ear.
Exactly.
And they'll tell someone else. And that's how it goes on, right? And paedophilia is a bigger fucking virus than coronavirus, SARS, the winter flu viruses ever are. And it kills more people. And it destroys more lives. Yet nobody talks about it. You know, and it's crazy. But then you get the lunatic fringe coming out and blaming it on all sorts of different sects, you know? And you can't do that, because abuse is down to the abuser, not what he believes in, not because the
100%.
book tells him it's right to punch someone or rape someone. It's down to his lust or her lust for fucking power.
100%. I mean, for years, I was embarrassed and ashamed of the abuse that my son's dad put me through. Like, the people used to sell me to, like, for years, I was ashamed and embarrassed by it. And it wasn't until social took my kids and, you know, a couple of months down the line, after locking myself away in their room for months, I realized that, you know, my life isn't even living anymore. All I'm doing is, you know, biding time, you know, letting time pass by, watching the clocks go by. It wasn't until I actually got to a point where I looked at my own life and I was like, well, no, because now I'm doing it to myself. I need to try and pull myself up somehow, no matter how it is.
I'm going to tell you, we have a problem in this country, right? It's been throughout the old days, throughout the ages, that kids were of no consequence, right? Going right down from the Tudor years right down to nowadays, right? Economics have forced us into another generation of latchkey kids, right? Where the key used to be hung on the back of the door, mum and dad are at work, blah, blah, blah. You know the score,
Yeah.
right? But only now it's computer kids, right? The economics have forced mum and dad to both work, and probably both work long hours for little money, right? So we are now got probably the biggest outbreak of grooming that this world has ever seen because of this virus. Because mum and dad hasn't got a clue who their kids are talking to, right? They're in their bedrooms, they're on their little phones or iPads, whatever.
Yep. They're seeing every day more paedophile hunters are going and stinging more paedophiles because they've just made everything easier. But I don't think it's technology that's made everything easier. I think it's parents being sort of brainwashed and pushed into not giving a shit and not paying attention and to having their own heads stuck in their phones. You're seeing it everywhere now. Even in my own generation, where people are just constantly glued to their phones, and then the kids are on tablets or games, and My cousins were the exact same. They're about 14, 15 now, and since I've moved back from Germany, I've only ever known them to want to be on their tablets or in front of the TV. Even when it's sunny, they don't want to go out. They want to be on the tablet and TV. And
you don't have a family unit anymore. You have a family, and it's articulated like a lorry and trailers.
This is the thing, though. Any parent who is like the standard parent, how we'd know it, where the kids are go back. If it's sunny, go play outside. If it's raining, put your wellies on and go play outside. Those parents who did parent like that were getting targeted, so that other parents around them knew, if you do keep your kids and they are like this, and you teach them how you were taught, then they'll get removed, because you give a shit about your kids. You're watching what they're doing. You're knowing who they're talking to. They're polite, respectful kids. Makes them easier to sell out because they don't put up much of a fight.
Yeah, but if you don't know your child, right? If you don't know who they're talking to on the internet, if you have no way of getting into your child's internet, the passwords, etc., then you're failing your child. And if your child is getting no attention from you, right, as a parent, right, it's in its bedroom doing its whatever, right? Kids are very adept at being elusive, right? They hold secrets. If you've got a 12-year-old daughter and she goes to school and you say to her, now just unroll that bloody skirt, right? 2 inches above the knee, that's your cracker, right? Immediately your back's turned, she's going to roll it up again.
I was one of those kids.
Yep. But you've seen all the fashions on the telly. You've been persuaded, brainwashed, right? Now then, grooming is exactly the same, right? How do you know that this is me you're talking to?
Well, only when seeing you or speaking to you in person, really.
But you don't, because I could have a machine here syncing someone else.
True. That's a good point.
And kids do this kind of thing. The groomers, they do this thing to kids, right? And there's no way in this world that unless they meet the person in flesh, that they know who the hell they're talking to.
Well, this is true. I mean, we know over time that social services have actually been doing this as well, like paedophiles within social services or groomers within social services. And they've even been doing it to trick parents up to get the kids away to adopt the younger ones out. I mean, professionals are even using that tactic as well, which is disgusting.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know how the system works today, but we've got a system, a childcare system, that, from where I stand, 70 years ago, totally failed me, right? And caused the best part of 60 years of mayhem. Not just for myself, but for the mayhem that I caused and the distress that I caused to others. Now, I can't lay the whole blame on the social services, and nor would I want to, because I have to take responsibility. But what I am going to say is, they didn't listen to me then, they don't listen to me now, and they don't listen to the victims.
Well, what do you think could change that? Do you think there's anything that could change that?
Speaking openly, forums like this, the internet has a far bigger audience than the bloody telly has, right? And I'm absolutely sure that people will start to sit up and take notice, right? And I like to believe that I was somewhere near the front of that, and I helped.
You 100% have. You still are doing.
You know, that for me, for when I eventually curl the old toes up, might become a Norwegian blue, that people will remember and go, Tarraga, that old arse. Yeah, he opened a can of worms. And that would be brilliant, you know. And I get people from all over the world want to talk to me, right? They do talk to me. They ring me up in the middle of the bloody night, right? About child abuse and what they've gone through and what's happening in their place. And I don't hold any answers apart from to say you have to talk about it and talk openly. Because if you don't, it ain't never going to get stopped. It will never get slowed down. And when they get these people, right, they've got to give them proper long prison sentences. And they get nothing in the jail. Because to the bulk of them, these nonsense, right, it's a disgusting word, but it's not nonsense, right? It's abuse. These abusers, right, haven't got anything anyway. And their delight is to go into jail, be put in a sex offender's cell with two other pods, and get their rocks off talking about their bloody crimes and reading each other's depositions.
Has anyone ever like faced justice for what they've done to you?
No.
So this book, do you name anyone in there? Is that like your way of getting justice, as well as obviously explaining what happened to yourselves?
Yeah. It was the book, the original one, The Uncouth Lout, was done as a statement, right? I paid and printed it myself. It was never published as a book, right? Although it was done in book form. And it was done. I wanted compensation from Lambeth, and they brought this scheme out. Now, first of all, the scheme was split in two ways: the halfway payment and then the settlement. But they were very sly, Lambeth, right? They hired the best law firms in London, the top-notch boys, right? Who were very adept at putting things back. The guy who was making all the decisions, right, as to whether you got compensation or not, was employed by Lambeth, an ex-police officer, right? But he was also the same guy that I spent over a year pouring my guts out to without me knowing that. Because I was under the impression, cheers, bud, that this was a guy who had been employed by Lambeth to investigate the stories of people for the compensation scheme. Right, it was for Shirley Oaks. It was called the Shirley Oaks Redress Scheme. They gave me, if you were there between 1 day and 6 months, they gave you £1,000, right? If you were there over 6 months, you got 10 grand, right? This was what they called the halfway payment. Now then, they offered me £1,000. So I told them to go fuck themselves. I said, behave yourself, grow up, get a grip, you know. A week later, they offered me 10 grand, the maximum. Right? No explanation, 10 grand. So I took it. And then I thought, right, I'll put in for settlement now, you know, and with what I went through, and they know because they've got the fucking records, right? They gave me the records. I'm in for 60, 70 grand here, maybe more, which would have set me and Georgie up for the rest of our lives, right? Or a weekend on the piss, one of the two, right? But they knocked it back. They said I wasn't entitled to it. So I rang and gave them old pelters, real abuse down the phone, but not obscenity abuse. Abuse only a prison educated chap could give, laid right into them quite nicely. But it didn't do me any good, right? So I appealed. And it went before Sir John Goldring, who is an ex-judge of appeal, right? Law Lord. And I didn't know that he was employed by fucking Lambeth. Right? Supposed to be independent, but yeah.
In fact, that still happens a lot now, but it happens on a much more regular basis now. Where, like for example, with the forced adoption side of things, every time you get involved with social services give you a list of solicitors you're allowed to use because they all work with social services.
Now, the beauty of this little scheme was I was unrepresented. If I wanted to be represented, they gave a list of lawyers, but it would have started at 300 quid an hour.
You know.
Right, which obviously no money, you know, I'm a poor person. And Judge Goldring, I'll give him his due. He turned it down because Lambeth said that there was no evidence that could be found that said that I was under the care of Lambeth. Which then begs the question, why did they give me 10 grand? Right? So they told Goldring that they were sympathetic to my client. I've never heard a fucking counsel give 10 grand for being sympathetic. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But he also stated, and this is from the judge, we have it in writing, that it is of no doubt that I was seriously abused during my time in the care system. But we also have a letter written by Lambeth, the chief executive of Lambeth last year, apologising for not listening to me and for not giving me the care that I was entitled to, and then denying that I was ever a child of Lambeth. You couldn't write it.
It's just it's mad to think that they think an apology is going to make up for everything.
It's crazy. But
it's not even like they're apologising for what happened to you. They're just apologising that they didn't acknowledge you back then.
Yeah. Well, it was then that I spoke to a guy. Just one minute. Just... Sorry about that. Being so rude. I'm back in it. I'm back.
Alan sends his regards as well.
Yeah, I just seen it there. I spoke to a chap called John Wedger. I rang him up. Right, I wasn't going to touch on this, but I will do.
Just bear in mind, you have to stay neutral.
I rang him up. And I told him my story. And he got back to me, I don't know, a month or so later. And then came up. I didn't know who he was. I'd never heard of him. I just saw him on Facebook one day. It pops up. I'll give this bloke a ring. Because I've been trying to get my story out. And he put me on to Anna Breeze, an ex-TV journalist, and very good. And it was with her that we turned the uncouth lout into Meat Rack Boy. And well, what's happened since then has just totally scunnered me. It's been far beyond my wildest dreams. You know, I just could never, ever imagine what it would do. And I decided, after I got knocked back for compensation, I thought, oh, well, I'm never going to have a Rolls Royce again, be it a bought one or a stolen one. You know what I mean? And I sat with Georgie. I said, look, this is what we have to live on. This is what we got coming in. The book might make a few quid. Do we want it? And we decided that making money from the book was more aggravation than not. And that we'd put it all into, with the help of Anna, setting up video teaching sessions where people could go for a 2-day teaching thing, everything paid apart from travel, but accommodation, food. Pardon me. In the hope that they would get their stories out, because we both felt, and I do feel very strongly, that it's easier for someone to talk about being raped and abused into a camera on their own, in their own home, not knowing who's going to see it, right? But get their story out, because someone will listen.
100%.
Right? It's not like going into Alcoholics Anonymous where you sit in a big ring and go, oh, good evening. Hello, my name's Michael. I was fucked as a child. You know, you don't do that. Nobody in their right senses would do it. You know, if they were telling their stories for the first time. It's crazy. But they're very happy, if happy is the right word to use, to speak into a computer.
Yeah, because when you're in your own space, your own comfortable bubble, like your own home, your own room, you're so much more comfortable and relaxed than if you were sat in a strange place where you don't know your escape routes or your hiding places. You can't just click a button and then go and cry for a bit in private. You know, I think that's...
watch regularly a young girl, Amy, right, in Norfolk, who was horrendously abused. And I mean horrendously. And she was falling apart. But she went and done the course with Anna Breeze. Right? I think Anna put her up. Oh, got a phone call coming through, but it'll have to wait. And it was strange, because she is now on the internet, on Twitter, and she tells her story. And she's become very, very strong to watch and to listen to her. You know, and I look at that girl and I think, and I look at Jan Cruikshank, who was raped in the business world, right? And the perpetrator got away with it, or thought he had. You know, and I realized that the computer is powerful, very, very powerful. And I'm sure that through the medium of the computer and podcasts like these, like Sean, like James English, where people are willing to talk in a relaxed state, right? Then, yeah, I think we'll get somewhere. We're not going to stop it completely.
Not for a long time anyway, but we shouldn't give up trying.
No, we shouldn't. But we can slow it right down, and that's really what I would hope to see. And
I mean, you can see how powerful the internet really is, and just simple things like this really are when you look at the forced adoption side of things as well. Because the majority of parents are gagged. On Facebook, they have different names, and you've got loads of different groups and then videos as well, which are, trying to be that positive motivation for people, but obviously also educate them on how to stop it from happening to them. And, Children Matters evolved into not just being for forced adoption, but for children of abuse, children of the care system, veterans. We've got so many different people standing with us now. Like, it's like you said, you can't give up, but there's something there for everyone. Because we were saying earlier that obviously we can both fully understand the people who don't want to talk out about their abuse. And someone I grew up in care with, she's one of those people where she won't sit there and talk about her past. As far as she's concerned, this, after everything she's been through, she deserves some happiness and some normality. And now she's happy with a girlfriend. They're planning on moving the next couple of months. This is her form of getting her own justice. Now finally being able to live and not have to worry about constantly being abused.
Yeah, I can understand that, but there's nothing. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it yourself. I don't believe in welfare officers. I don't believe in social workers, right? They have to work to a script, and they don't deviate off that fucking script.
No.
Right? And they go on first looks, right? If you go in to the probation service, or the social services as an unknown, scruffy-looking street urchin, right? And you go, oh, I've been sexually assaulted. They go, yeah, okay, we'll send you a crime number.
Yeah.
They're interested, right? Especially if you've had a drink. They don't want to know, right? And we've got a situation in a country today where you've got 3 generations of family who will not have worked, right? And if you've got no work, you've got no money. If you've got no money, you've got no hope. And if you've got no hope, you are wide open to being exploited.
100%.
And it has so many elements to it, abuse, that it's like music, There's genres of music and there's genres of abuse, and they're all as bad as each other. And when they start intermingling, and when no one cares, you're fucked.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you fully on that.
And I honestly, I don't know. I think we've got to get an answer to it. We've got to get respect.
We've got to have a remedy out there for the kids and people who have suffered and become victim, especially to the state. Because at the minute, there's no remedy, especially if you get victimized by the state. And the state is tending to target vulnerable people who've been, victim to abuse in any form.
Yeah, abuse is abuse, whichever way. But what is one man's abuse is not another man's abuse, and there's no.
If that was the case, if it was as black and white as some people think it is, like, if you've been a victim of one form of abuse, you don't know what it's like to be a victim of this form of abuse. if that was the case, me and you wouldn't be able to have the casual conversations that we have, because I was abused in one way and you were abused in a different way. Abuse is abuse.
Oh yeah, I'm with you, but I mean, I've never hit a woman in my life. I don't believe in it. I'm old school, right? But having said that, I've been punched by a woman. A real good dulling on the bleeding cheek, I'll tell you. She was a good one, a cracker. But, you know, it was 80 mile an hour as it happens on the motorway, but it gave us a bit of a shock.
Bloody hell.
But, you know, I see no reason for a male to hit a female, right? I don't go on it. It's one of my pet hates. The same as I can't get my head around why a grown-up would want to sexually assault a tiny child or rape it, right?
That's where I know it happens. I'm not naive to it happening. Yeah. But the mind still boggles of how could someone be in that frame of mind where they think someone that young and vulnerable is attractive in that sort of sense.
People go, oh, Satanism and all that. Bullshit. It's lust.
It's just it's people. It's messed up people with fucked up personalities that are just you shouldn't exist.
Yeah, and
that's not down to anything other than that fucked up person, that fucked up individual themselves.
And they're inadequate. That's the only way you can describe them. Inadequate. You know? And I do wonder, do they know what they're bloody well doing? Because I don't think half of them do. It's in them. And the only way that you can deal with these people is to chemically castrate them.
I mean, I could think of another way and they wouldn't get back up again.
But that's not legal.
It's not, but still, I could think of another way.
And, you know, I have all sorts of, I think drug addicts, right? And I was one, and I wish it happened to me. Why don't they take them in off the street, put them into a coma for 3 weeks, feed them through a tube, nutrients, and flush the bodies right through and get all the narcotics out of the bloodstream, everything. 3 weeks later, you've got a clean person. You know, I would have preferred that than 2 weeks curled up in a bloody corner, stinking, howling like a bloody banshee, listening to Leonard Cohen, right? And drinking tons of coffee, gallons of it, right? To be knocked out, come to knowing that there's not a hint of drug in me, I'm clean, I can start again, and my body's been fed the nutrients. Save an awful lot of money that could be put in to other departments. If you weigh up what a drug addict costs over 10 years in treatments and in help, that 9 out of 10 either don't want or can't handle the help, it's money well spent, I would have thought. You know, and the same. How many schools do you know that educate the children from a very young age about online grooming? Because I can't think of any.
The thing is, at that age, though, when you're that young, you're inquisitive. If you hear about something, you're going to want to have a look for yourself. Because we're just...
How many children do you see in a buggy, right, outside bloody KFC or inside Mackie D's? The child is in a buggy with a tablet or a mobile phone in his hands.
Yeah, that annoys me.
right?
That really, really annoys me. That's wrong on so many different levels. I am of the firm belief that kids shouldn't have mobile phones until they start walking home from school. Just a call to tell their parents who are in work that they're home.
Yeah, and and these kids are learning. I know kids in this town who know how to get on every porn site and every bloody dating site that you can imagine. Me, I have trouble getting on a bleeding Facebook.
I don't even have Facebook on my phone.
And they all look, and they're so far up with it. And I don't care who the girl is. If she's got someone on the internet and there's a photograph of this fit young lad saying whoever he is and telling her that she looks gorgeous and she's beautiful,
wrong.
that she ain't going to be impressed.
See, I mean, I'm 24 and I get messages because obviously what I do on here, I still get messages. For me, I think they're vulgar, making sexual references and comments towards because of the way I looked. And it's happened on live a couple of times and I've always had to stop it and go, hang on a fucking second. I'm not a piece of meat. I'm a human being. It's not my fault. I'm doing this at my age. It's not my fault. I look the way that I do. I don't care about any of that. I'm here for the kids. If you want to go make comments like that, then there's fucking porn websites for you to do that too, and fucking call sites on fucking TVs. I'm not the person to do it too. You don't do that to anyone. It's so disrespectful and rude. And sorry.
No, you're right. Now, I used to drive Georgie mad, right? When I was out DJing, I'd flirt like there was no tomorrow, right? But I'd never pass the line. You know what I mean? I can fling in the Untrendos like there's no tomorrow. You know what I mean? I can do Leslie Phillips. I can do Mr. Sleaze with Panache. Believe you me. But I can also do Mr. Nice Guy. And I can do Mr. Pure and Simple Fuckwit, which I quite prefer, actually, because that's me. You know what I mean? I don't do PC. I never have done PC. And I refuse to do PC.
You shouldn't. I mean, this is the thing. This is one thing I've always said from the beginning. What's the point in me putting on an act of, more professional, how some people call it or not, if that's not who I am? I mean, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to everyone the same way I would do in person if the cameras weren't rolling. I'm not going to put on an act for anyone. You'll see who I am. My opinions, everything from the offset. And that's because, this is probably the only way my kids are ever going to get to see me. So this is why I do it. I don't do it for myself. This is my selfish side of what I'm doing, so my kids can actually get to know who I am and see, what I care about, what I'm fighting for. Pardon?
You have got a little something up there, right? Because you are multitasking, right? Think about it. You are laying your life down in a way that your kids are going to understand. And they're going to understand you far more better doing this, the way you're doing it, than sitting over a kitchen table with a bowl of fucking cereal. Right? And
Lewis,
saying, well, this is how it was, kids. Right? And you're also laying a bloody decent foundation for a career, right, in what you're doing, because this computer lark is the way to go, because you'll get heard. Your name will be out there.
Well, we've actually been working on a website that's slowly being developed, and it's going to have its own social media platform side of it, and also where you can get one-to-one advice from people from different causes, victims, survivors, professionals, ex-professionals. So I'm trying to, but I was speaking to my friend Lewis from Germany. He's actually in the chats at the minute. But I was speaking to him this morning actually about why I keep kind of pushing him to come and do more videos with me, because he did one with me last week. And it's my side of, because I've always said to them, because Lewis and Jackie in Germany, the kids I was in care with, they've been family for me for a long time, and they're practically, apart from my son's godmother, the only people I speak to from that side of my life. And I've only just got back in touch with them. But when my kids were first born, I always used to say to them that I wanted to introduce them to my kids, and I was dead excited for doing it. And it's come to a point where this is the only way of actually being able to introduce my kids to not just them, but who I used to be before them, you know, and when I had them and everything, because they're from that time of my life. And yeah, I kind of try and piggyback onto, you know, because me personally, I don't want it to be about me. I don't care about who I am. I'm no one. I'm not important. I'm doing this for my kids. But I'm also well aware that my kids could go down the routes of everyone on the cars, including yourself. And your story is so important at educating not just my kids, but everyone else on what you've been through, what goes on, you know, how to survive going through stuff like that. I mean, you help educate me and so many other people at the same time. So, you know, this is my way of introducing my kids to you and your story.
I hope that those who read my story, who hear my story, get it into their skulls that this was not the way to go. You know, it was just pure survival, nothing more.
Well, it was more though, because you wrote a book and you're doing stuff like this with people like me, educating us still.
Oh, that was after I got out and I'd sorted myself out, and I'd been jail free for a long time and shrink factory free for a short while.
But that's because you didn't have yourself to look at and inspire and to educate. You've had to go through that to teach yourself to become the person you are today, to help the people that you are. I mean, I'm sure me and you could have been in a similar situation or mindset if there was someone like you back when, you know, when you were first going through it all.
Well,
you're unique, accept it.
It became, when I was going through it, it became a way of life. And when it finished, the sexual part of it finished, and I went to sea, I was lost. Now, that doesn't make sense, and I don't make sense of it, but I was lost. I had no one, right? And I mean no one, right? And I desperately wanted to be someone, you know, and I sang with a couple of bands in the 60s, local, fucking about. You know what I mean? I appeared with Gino Washington in Bristol, fucking about. And with the Vagabonds, fucking about again. And nothing worked. With whatever I tried, went tits up. But it went tits up because I made it go tits up, because it frightened me of what might happen. And it was easier for me to go and make a short-term friend of someone and call them stupid and fuck off.
I think everyone has to survive somehow. I mean,
and then the jail never worried me at all, because I used to just go into solitary confinement and refuse to come out. You know, and for me, that was excellent. But when I found myself rock bottom, and I mean rock bottom, on the street, living in a fucking gutter, a sick old man, right, a drug addict, a mess, 7 stone of shit and nothing else, I knew that I had to sort it. And I did. I done cold turkey and in a homeless hostel. And yeah.
But sometimes you have to go through. I mean, the good thing about that is the motivating part about that, I suppose, is the fact that you decided you decided to open your eyes to what you were doing to yourself, and you decided to clean up your act, even if it was doing it the harshest way.
I didn't want to die. I wasn't worried about dying, but I didn't want to die. You know what I mean? And I'd had a few goes at it, believe you me. And I guess I wasn't ready to die. And although I didn't know it then, you know, there was something in me that said, "You're needed, kid."
Well, you were right. You are needed. I mean, I was
Georgie needed me, and I needed her.
And you're still needed now, which is why I'm going to hopefully do a couple of these videos with you as well, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if she needs me now because she has to make me tea. And God, you know what I mean? I don't do it I do it for her occasionally. I'm pretty good like that. You know, I'm not a domestic goddess or god. Right? Oh, I shouldn't use that word. God, 3 times and he got in flames then. Because me and God don't speak. And I have no intentions of speaking with him or her.
You know, I know that feeling all too well, to be honest.
You know what I mean? But
I'm just gonna mute myself for a minute, so I do apologise. I'm just gonna quickly run to the loo.
Oh, lovely. You know, too much information on live radio.
Sorry. It was that or sneak off without telling you I was sneaking off, so I do apologise. But I was wondering, I'm going to take my phone with me as well, so I will be able to obviously still hear. What was it that actually made you write the book and do it the way you have done?
Are we talking Meat Rack Boy or talking?
Yeah, Meat Rack Boy. Well, both of them, to be fair.
Well, as I've said, the Uncouth Lout was written as a statement. Lambeth wanted a statement, and I couldn't be asked to give him a statement. I thought I'll make a statement, and I wrote the Uncouth Lout, which kind of terrified me because the dates I probably got it. Well, I did get them wrong because I had no records to work off. It was all coming straight out the head and what I could recall. And it frightened me because everybody in Fleetwood knew me as the idiot DJ, the likeable chap. Bit of an idiot, but, you know, every village has to have one. And I was quite happy with that. But I didn't know how they were going to react to being blatantly told out in the open that he was the bloke you think's an idiot, a roughy toughy, a boy with the girls, but to say it was I, who was raped stupid as a kid and spent long times in jail. And it worried me, but the response was phenomenal.
I am back, by the way, sorry. Great Brits put a comment in asking how wide is this problem in your opinion?
Global. Absolutely global. It's the most... Children, unfortunately, are a commodity that are worth more than diamonds. It's as simple as that. The price of kids will always go up.
You'll find as well that that this is the sad reality of what happens when you look down most avenues, to be fair. If you go down the forced adoption avenue, the social services, family courts, parental alienation, if you go down, there's so many different roads of avenue that will lead you down to show you how dark and sinister this really gets. When I had Lewis on with me the other day, we were saying about how lucky me and him were in the care homes we were at. Well, obviously, a girl we were in care with as well, she didn't have the luck that we had. She was in and out of care from a young age where we just joined as young teenagers.
The forced adoption thing, right? I've always said, and I will always say, I will never, ever speak on a subject that I know nothing about, right? I'm a bloody expert on child abuse. because I was part of it. So I know everything about it, right? I am not, and have never, ever seen or heard of anything to do with Satanism. So I wouldn't speak on that. I've seen voodooism at work in African countries, in Haiti, in Cuba, right? But don't know enough to talk about it, right? Apart from the fact that a torso was found in the Thames some years ago of a little lad, and it was put down to voodooism at the end, witchcraft, right? We know that there's witchcraft because you see it at work every day in Africa, right? I couldn't possibly speak about any other authority that ran children's homes, right? Because I was never in them.
Can you see the comments by just out of curiosity?
No.
Right, there's just another comment that's been put on. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it or not.
I don't know.
I didn't think you would.
Yeah. The intelligence services work together in almost all aspects of everything.
Well, to be fair, you see that in that aspect, you see that as you see that in like civil matters as well, like with councils and that. You see them working with police and social services and local authorities to screw families over.
I don't know. Do they possibly set out to screw a family over? I don't know.
I speak from experience in that case where they use risk of future, crystal ball method to take my kids away from me and put them up for adoption. I've got no criminal record. I'd never been involved with anything. I didn't even drink. I still don't drink. I came from a military background, and before that, a middle class background. I had family and everything that went forward from both step families and my biological family, but the risk of future, because I couldn't prove that I would never in future like grab my son to pull him out of the way of something, so leave a mark on him, or I'd never ground him, which is classed as false imprisonment. They use all that to take your kids away from you so that they can sell young kids for adoption.
Oh, I believe they sell children for adoption. No doubt about that around the world.
No, but it's setting the families up to take the kids to adopt them.
But I've never experienced that. So I can't possibly comment on it,
Don't worry, I know you can't.
It would be wrong to say anything, but I do very firmly believe that once you've been tainted, you are tainted for life.
Oh yeah,
and it
100%.
takes an awful lot to come out of it, and to come out of that tainting, you have to be strong. And one of the things that I've discovered is that if you're going to tell your story, you've got to tell it straight. You can't go making names up, plucking celebs' names out of the air and saying, oh, he done this to me, she done that to me, blah, 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 because you'll find very quickly, unless you can prove it, back it up, then you ain't going to get believed anyway. And
it's your word against the professionals. It's the same way on our side of the court as well. If you're going up against a professional, you best have hard evidence.
I look at this Carl Beach thing, and it worries me. And it worries me big time, because here is a bloke who is obviously inadequate, but at the same time, extremely intelligent, right? Who's going around telling the police and being believed that he saw people killed, and he names them.
Mm.
And they pay him a hell of a lot of money. They allow him to bugger off abroad, right? They find one of the dead people that he's named is alive and well in Australia and doesn't have a clue what this bloke's talking about, right? And because they were so keen to be seen to be doing something, right? Everything gets cocked up. No, I'm absolutely sure that this guy had evidence to give them, right, about sexual abuse of children and young people. But because they cocked it up, the old bill, it's all gone out the window. And just to show their displeasure with him, they give him 18 years.
Wow.
Right? And I think, is this going crazy? Yet they give the weatherman who's rumping schoolboys, old Fred, they give him 6 when he admits sexually abusing boys when he was a teacher. Now, to me, there's something wrong here. There's no consistency, right?
Well, I've actually got, on this actual subject, for my other half, he likes to do a lot of research. And some of the research he looked into led him down the path of convictions for paedophiles and rapists. And when you're going down the list, you'll find anyone who works in a professional capacity, even school workers, police officers, social workers, judges, healthcare professionals, are all getting minimum sentences for child molestation and rape. But normal citizens who are got done for the exact same crime are getting done for lifelong sentences. I mean, some of these professionals have committed horrendous crimes against children, but only face 2 years or even 30-week community service.
Yeah. And we're in a system, but we always have been in a system. You purchase justice. You buy it. You know, if you've got no money, you're not getting justice. And
well, sometimes answers is justice as well, though.
But do we get any answers?
No,
I certainly haven't got any. You know,
I don't even think answers will be available until everyone's long gone.
And I did get peace. I got a load lifted, and I can tell you this: since 2008, I've been the happiest I've ever been, and I have no worries at all of anything. You know, I have no fear about going and talking openly about my life. And I try to do it in a way that it doesn't come over as doom and gloom. It's not something that I'm going to allow to wreck my life anymore or take it over anymore. And I just want to come over as, a nice old man who was in the shit but came out smelling of roses a few years later, you know, and not smelling of all shit. And I quite like that feeling. And to see this guy at Great Britain, right? Does it help you guys knowing you're telling others by telling your stories? I'm past help. I'm past that. I'm way past it. I get a bloody pleasure out of telling my story. But I get a greater pleasure knowing that people around the world, now here's an assistive piece, have got to know me. Thousands have got to actually see me on a screen, right? I mean, last time I appeared on screen was on Police 5, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? And people can look and go, how the fucking hell can he laugh at what he's got to say? But I'll tell you why I can laugh. Because I'm happy. Because there is no bitterness left. It's gone. The pain has gone. The mental lunacy has gone. You know, I've come to the time in my life, and I said it to Georgie the other day, that it was, I'm at one end of the settee, she's at the other end. That's our social isolating. Right? And we talk to each other, and we laugh, and we smile, you know, and I've got a discipline that I didn't have, and I'm just looking at this question. Did Michael find adapting to the Legion? Was it a way of coping? It was a great life, the discipline. It was fantastic. It was something. It wasn't quite what I thought it would be. There wasn't the romance there, I can assure you, you know, of the desert song and all that. But it was all right, yeah. Yeah, it was a part that I'll never, ever regret. And I like my life. And I, if I'm totally insensitive, I like the fact that people who see these podcasts and what have you and read the book will go, yeah, I like him. He's all right. He's not done bad. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, well, nowhere near a million. I'm a poor pensioner, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Living on a state pension. But if you can laugh and smile at 70 years old, the way I laugh and smile at 70, and my book has helped you, or my story has helped you to get there, then yeah, every minute of it's worthwhile. In fact, I should be on the stage. I really
well, next time we do a demo, you will be on my list of first people to invite to come and speak on the stage.
But no, because I just go on longer than Ken Dodd, for Christ's sake.
But that's what's needed. At the end of the day, a lot of people, the majority of people, wake up to what's actually happening when they get to have a conversation with someone and hear what the people are actually saying from their own, their own experience. I mean, you're an amazing speaker, and what?
I get truly saddened at some of the stories that I hear, and my heart breaks for these people. And you know, I've become friends with someone in Australia whose daughter was murdered by a sex predator, right? And the body has never been found, and this guy has never given the body up. Convicted rapist. And she's got to go through a second trial with him. And her story is horrific. Absolutely heartbreaking. And I can feel the pain that this woman is going through, because I've been in kind of the same situation, right? Although the body was found, right? And it saddens me that nobody has listened in the past, and it's taken someone like me to come out with something absolutely shocking but true to start waking people up. Because I may be wrong, but I think I'm the first bloke who's come out and said it straight. I spent a childhood being raped and sold, and showing people where it happened, and I think it shocked a lot of people. It shocked me that I could be so blunt, but it doesn't and never has worried me since it got out. After that first couple of weeks of the uncouth lout coming out, I relaxed and let people make their own mind up. And I've only ever had a couple of trolls, and one I miss. It doesn't troll me anymore, and I quite miss it actually, but it also makes me realize that people are believing what I'm telling them. They are listening, and if they don't hear the whole story, they hear bits and pieces, and hopefully something will come out of it, and I make it abundantly clear. I don't do it for money. What good is money to me now? Every bean from Meat Rack Boy, every single penny goes to helping people tell their stories. Right? I don't see a penny. I wouldn't know how many books are sold or have sold. I just haven't got a clue. I don't really want to know. Right? And with the new book, Out of the Darkness, that's out on the end of May, beginning of June, every penny from that will go into a trust so that when I turn my toes up, Georgie will be looked after because she's not well and she's going to need care. And hopefully there'll be a few quid there to provide to make sure that she's comfortable. And it'll go into a trust. I won't touch it while I'm alive. Don't want it. 20 years ago, Deborah, I'd have wanted a film. I'd have wanted Johnny Depp playing me. You know what I mean? But now, today, no. I just get immense satisfaction knowing that after 70 years, people are getting to know the child that was, the child that is Mike T.
And that's what this is about at the end of the day. People need to see that you're not fighting for justice for who you are now, but you when you were a child. That's the awareness that you're raising of the abuse that children are still suffering, the abuse that you went through. So you've got first-hand knowledge and experience of it as well.
2 or 3 times a week, I put one up in the mornings on Facebook and sometimes on Twitter, asking parents if they know what their children are up to with the grooming. The grooming is the thing that frightens me today. It really does frighten me because it goes unchecked. Nobody knows. I bet your next door neighbour, if she's got a 14-year-old daughter, hasn't got a clue who she's talking to on the internet. Not a clue. And that is a sad thing. That really is sad. And parents, I'm afraid, they've got to start reconnecting with their kids. All of them. And they've got to become a family unit again. Because if they don't, there ain't going to be no family. And it worries me when you see these single mums, right, with 4 or 5 kiddies, all small, all different dads. Because that in some form these girls have been groomed. It might not be the grooming that you and I see you know, with like as in Rochdale or any of those places. But they're meeting these young lads, and because they've got nothing and no one apart from their child, who at night time is in its kit from 6 o'clock at night, mum, young girl, sat there all alone. Boy comes into her life, arm around, bang, another sprog on the way. You know, and they're being groomed, and it's because we haven't got a system in place to look after these kids properly. Everything's being closed down. This rotten country of ours would rather send millions of pounds to India that has a Mars project as foreign aid than put it into the children of its own country.
It's pathetic to say, but it's happening daily.
You can't blame the Tories or Labour because they're only the figureheads of a government that's already in place, the civil servants, and they deem what's being done and what isn't being done. And I think that saddens me because those kids don't have a future anymore. They didn't have a future before they were born, and they've got even less of one now because they're being brought in up in a system that will provide the minimum required of everything you want.
Yeah.
You know, there's no incentive to go to work.
It's sad to see these days so many young people just not wanting to work.
No,
it's not a society I'm used to.
No, I've never signed a dole in my life. Not my kind of thing. You know what I mean? I was always ducking and diving, so to speak, or going to sea. You know, and it was very rare. It was only when I became a mess that I ended up with nothing. But hey ho, I'm here now. I've still got nothing, and I'm happy.
Well, that's the main thing. Happiness is the main thing. To be fair.
Yeah, I'm more than happy, and thank you for inviting me to do this.
Anytime. Well, before we wrap up, is there a message that you want to give people, anyone who may be going through or been through something similar to what you've been through, or anyone watching in general?
Yes, time for the old British Pathé advertisement. Meat Rack Boy. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, or whatever they call it. If you can't afford a copy, contact me on Facebook, on Twitter, WhatsApp, or whatever, and I will send you a copy free of charge. Read it, share it, break the silence, and protect a child. It's easy. If you want a T-shirt that I had printed and you can't afford one, I'll send you one. You know, it's not a big deal. It gets it out there that kids are there to be protected and enjoyed. Their lives have to be enjoyed by them and by us. And as adults, as serious, sensible, or in my case, half sensible adults, it is our job to protect. It is our job to give them a future. And if we don't do that, then we've lost. And we can't allow that loss to take over. It's as simple as that. And, you know, I'll talk to anyone anytime. I don't care. You know, I might be a little bit controversial now and again. I might swear. But that's me. You know, I'm not going to put a plum in my mouth. I'm not going to become Rees-Mogg for anyone. You know, and I'll answer questions more than happily about my life.
Well, we're looking at doing a raffle in the next week or two. Start putting together a raffle to celebrate hitting 1,000, and Great Brits asked if obviously you could do a signed one, and I was wondering if I'd be able to buy a signed one as well for you to be able to put in the raffle, possibly even a top as well.
If you send me your addresses, right, I'll fling in a couple of T-shirts, a black one, a white one, and a book for each of you. Right, no charge.
Well, I'm still going to be sending something because I do want to put one in the raffle as well.
I'll send you one for the raffle. Don't worry.
Thank you.
No problem.
You're an absolute legend. I mean, there's not many people who go above and beyond like you do, and you are an inspiration to many, even especially today.
You can have a book for yourself and a book and a T-shirt, one of each for your raffle. And Great Britain there, if he wants to send his address, it's not the same address, is it?
No.
Right, if he wants to send his address, email it to me or whatever, that'll be in the post in the morning.
Are you an...
Costs nothing. It's neither here nor there.
Well, you're an absolute legend, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. It's always great talking with you, and that's why I want to do some more videos in the future as well. Because I mean, you are an inspirational person. The fact that you're still fighting and still, having to relive what you went through anyway to educate us. I mean, you're an absolute inspiration. It's an honour to have you on here.
It's not a case of education, and it's not an honour for you to have me on here. I'm just an ordinary bloke, right? Who's coming to the zenith of his life, so to speak, and who had something to say and had a mouth big enough to say it. It's as simple as that. And if people try and understand where I come from and try and understand the nasties and the niceties of my life, and can pick the good bits out and kind of live the good bits, then it's not been a waste of time, has it? It's been...
I get what you mean.
I'm not going to say journey because I hate that bloody word. It's been a voyage of discovery. You know what I mean? Of running aground and coming back off the rocks, running on the rocks again and getting back off, and suddenly swallowing the bloody anchor, and coming to an abrupt halt. And that's the way it's been. But I have no regrets of what I've said or what I have done. I wished it hadn't all been the same. I wished I hadn't hurt the people that I have hurt. I wished I hadn't been hurt the way I've been hurt. But I can't undo the past. No one can do that. We can only hope that the future we have and the future we leave will be better for those who live in it. And that's my hope. And I hope that Meat Rack Boy shows that. It's not there to brag about the thieving I done, the Rolls Royce that I nicked, the checks that I put out. It wasn't done to glorify that shite. It was to show that don't matter how long it takes, if you want to come out of it and sort of live a civilized life, if this is civilization, then you can do it. No matter what you've got
100%.
against you. You can do it. Because I did.
100%.
Took a long time, but yeah. Hey, we're here. I wouldn't have thought 10 years ago I'd be doing this.
You know what? I said the same for a few years ago, like about 5-6 years ago. I could never have imagined sitting in front of a TV doing this, talking to the people I am doing.
No, it's done. And thank you for inviting me.
Well, anytime. And I hope to have you on again soon. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody, as well, for joining us in the comments and pitching in. So take care, everyone.
And
bye.
Take care. Bye.